I came across Luke's recording of this awesome trilogy, and it identifies who Jesus is and what he's all about. And I believe that as a church, if we can focus in on that and we can capture that moment and we can digest it, then it becomes our identity and we become the very reflection of Jesus. It's in the book of Luke, chapter 15, and he sets this beautiful trilogy up of a story about a lost sheep, a lost coin, and a lost son. In the first story, it's about a sheep that wanders off into a long distance. And in the last story, it's about a son who chooses to leave home and go a long ways away. But in the center is a really short little parable about a woman who lost a coin, and the coin happened to be lost in the house. Now, the Pharisees saw Jesus hanging out with sinners, and they grumbled, why does he hang out with sinners? And Ellen G. White writes this gorgeous commentary on how the Pharisees totally missed out on what Jesus was all about, and how you and I have to be careful about missing out on that as well. So we often talk about the sheep, and we have preached and have done theological digs on the prodigal son, but that middle piece was so interesting to me. And as I looked into the story, it was even more meaningful. I absolutely fell in love with it. I hope you do too. And it's about this woman. The woman is representing God. It's the same story in three different perspectives. The shepherd in the first one is Jesus. The father in the last one is Jesus. And so we have to just keep the continuity of the stories and recognize that the woman here is Jesus. And Jesus picks a woman, and this is an outright crazy thing to do, but he does it anyways. And so God is represented as a woman here who loses a coin. Now in the Middle Eastern culture, according to Kenneth Bailey, women would wear their coins on them, their necklaces, and so it would be like a dowry. This was their value. So when people would come by and they'd see their value on her, they would recognize how much she's worth. And as Jesus tells the story, this is something that's obvious to everyone around. Everyone who's listening, all the peasants, all the sinners, all the Pharisees, they're hearing this, and it makes complete sense to them why she would look for this coin, because it meant it was part of her value. And so you and I begin to see something here that's beautiful and dynamic, that when one of us is lost in the house, we're not talking about on a far off distance or the Gentiles or other people. These are people in the house, in God's home, in his church, part of the ecclesia or the assembly. When one of us is lost from him, he feels it because we are part of his value. And so he goes searching for us until we're reconnected to him, because God is so in love with us and he feels so deeply connected to us that when we're missing, he feels a piece of himself missing. Adversely, when you and I are missing from God, or when we're disconnected from God, that's when we feel least valuable. And we try to fill that value with a ton of stuff, whether it's buying cars or buying a house or wearing certain clothes or getting certain positions at church or at a job. We're constantly trying to feel that sense of value we need. And we don't really understand that we can't get that value unless we're connected back to God. Unless we're part of his chest plate, his necklace around his neck, and God shows us off to the rest of the universe and says, this is my child, this is my value. So if you're in the house, right, we're not talking about those in the far distance. If you're in the house and you're feeling lost, if you don't have much identity, if you don't know how to connect to your church, I would say the first thing you need to do is get reconnected with God. Stop and let him catch you. Let him find you today, and you will find a value about yourself that is priceless. God bless you.